I took a deep breath and steadied myself as I entered the conference room. Elliot was already there, pacing back and forth, deep in conversation on his phone. "Listen, I need that money transferred by tomorrow. No excuses," he snapped. "My wife thinks it's for our latest development project. She has no idea." My heart sank. I had my suspicions about Elliot's shifty behavior lately, but hearing him outright admit to deceiving me was a gut punch I wasn't prepared for. Elliot ended the call and whirled around, his face flushing when he saw me. "Tessa, how long have you been standing there?" "Long enough," I replied, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. "What's going on, Elliot? What are you up to?" He shook his head and forced a chuckle. "It's nothing, babe. Just some last-minute details for the Oakwood project. You know how it is." I narrowed my eyes. "Don't lie to me. I heard you loud and clear. You're secretly moving money around, and you're using me to fund something shady." Elliot's mask slipped and his expression hardened. "Look, we need to think about our future. This is just a temporary investment that'll pay off big time." "Without my knowledge or consent?" I shot back. "You're stealing from me, Elliot. From our marriage." He stepped closer, his jaw clenched. "I'm doing what I have to do to secure our financial stability. You should be thanking me instead of questioning my methods." I recoiled, suddenly fearful of the man I thought I knew so well. "This isn't you. What happened to the Elliot I married? The one who valued honesty and partnership?" Elliot's lips curved into a cold smile. "That Elliot is gone. This is the real me, Tessa, and if you're not with me, you're against me." I swallowed hard, my mind racing. How could I have been so blind? The man standing before me was a stranger, driven by greed and deception. But I wouldn't let him win, not without a fight. After that sickening confrontation, I knew I couldn't trust a word out of Elliot's mouth. He had betrayed me in the worst possible way, and I needed to protect myself, both emotionally and financially. The next morning, I confided in my best friend Jessica over brunch. Her eyes widened as I recounted Elliot's damning phone conversation and his chilling admission of deception. "That snake!" Jessica hissed, slamming her fist on the table. I knew there was something off about him, but I never imagined he'd stoop this low. I nodded, blinking back tears. "I feel like such a fool. All this time I thought we were building a life together, but he's been playing me from the start." Jessica reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Don't beat yourself up, Tess. This is on him, not you. The important thing now is to protect yourself and your assets." Her words resonated with me. For too long, I had been blinded by love and trust, allowing Elliot to take advantage of my vulnerability. But no more. Over the next few days, I started digging into our financial records, cross-checking statements, and tracking where our money was going. The deeper I looked, the more inconsistencies I found. Mysterious withdrawals, offshore accounts, and bogus investment schemes that didn't add up. It became clear that Elliot's betrayal went far beyond emotional manipulation. He had been systematically siphoning funds from our joint accounts, using my hard-earned wealth to fuel his own selfish endeavors. The gravity of his deceit hit me like a ton of bricks. This wasn't just about money. It was about control, power, and utter disregard for the vows we had taken. As the evidence mounted, a cold fury settled in my bones. Elliot had underestimated me, thinking I would remain a meek, oblivious wife forever. But I was done being a victim. It was time to fight back. With Jessica's unwavering support, I started gathering documentation and building a case against Elliot. I knew confronting him directly would only lead to more lies and manipulation, so I needed to be strategic, methodical, and utterly ruthless. No more Mrs. Nice Guy. Elliot had awakened a fire within me, and I was going to make him pay for every ounce of pain and betrayal he had inflicted. With a thick folder of evidence in hand, I steeled myself for the inevitable confrontation with Elliot. It was time to rip off the Band-Aid and expose his lies once and for all. I found him lounging in the living room, casually flipping through his tablet. The sight of his relaxed demeanor made my blood boil. "We need to talk," I said, my voice firm and unwavering. Elliot glanced up, eyebrows raised. "What's up, babe?" I tossed the folder onto the coffee table, and it landed with a thud. "Don't babe me, you lying snake. I know everything." His eyes narrowed as he took in the stack of documents. "What's all this?" "Proof of your deceit," I spat. "Bank statements, wire transfers, offshore accounts, All the dirty little secrets you've been keeping from me." For a moment, Elliot's mask slipped, and I saw a flicker of panic cross his features. But he quickly recovered, leaning back with a sardonic grin. "You've been busy, I see, but you're overreacting as usual. This is all just part of a bigger plan, Tessa, a plan to secure our future." I shook my head, disgusted by his smooth lies. "Cut the crap, Elliot. I know you've been siphoning funds from our accounts, running scams behind my back. And for what, your own selfish gain?" He scoffed, spreading his arms wide. "Is that what you think? That I'd betray the woman I love for a quick buck? You wound me, Tessa." "Spare me the act," I snarled. "I have the evidence right here. You can't talk your way out of this one." Elliot's eyes hardened, and he rose to his feet, towering over me. "Listen carefully, Tessa. Everything I've done has been for us, for our family. If you can't see that, then maybe we're not on the same page after all." I stared back defiantly, refusing to be intimidated. "We're not on any page, Elliot, not anymore. I want a divorce." The words hung in the air like a weighted silence. Elliot's face contorted with rage, and for a terrifying moment, I thought he might lash out physically. But then, just as quickly, his expression smoothed into a chilling calm. "A divorce, huh? Well, if that's what you want, sweetheart, you're in for a rude awakening." He stepped closer, his breath hot on my face. "I'll take you for everything you've got. The house, the cars, the business. It'll all be mine. And when I'm done, you'll be left with nothing but the clothes on your back." I held my ground, meeting his icy glare with unwavering resolve. "We'll see about that." As he stormed out of the room, I allowed myself a small, grim smile. The battle lines had been drawn, and there was no turning back now. But I was ready to fight for my life, my dignity, and everything Elliot had tried to steal from me. This was war, and I had no intention of losing. After that explosive confrontation with Elliot, I knew I had to move quickly to protect myself and my assets. The gloves were off, and he had made it abundantly clear that he was willing to fight dirty, to take everything from me. I spent the next few days gathering every shred of evidence I could find: bank statements, property records, tax filings, anything that could be used to untangle our finances and prove Elliot's fraudulent activities. With each document I uncovered, the web of deceit grew more intricate and sickening. It became clear that Elliot had been plotting his betrayal for years, meticulously setting up shell companies and offshore accounts to hide his ill-gotten gains. And all the while, he had been using me as a pawn in his twisted game, siphoning funds from our legitimate business ventures to fuel his own greed. The level of deception was staggering, and it made me question everything I thought I knew about the man I had once loved. How could someone be so calculating, so utterly devoid of conscience? As I pored over the records, a new discovery made my blood run cold. A secret bank account in Elliot's name, with deposits and withdrawals that didn't match any of our known investments or expenses. It was the smoking gun, the undeniable proof that he had been squirreling away millions behind my back. Anger and betrayal burned within me, but I refused to let those emotions cloud my judgment. I needed to stay focused, to gather as much evidence as possible before Elliot caught wind of what I was doing and tried to cover his tracks. With the help of a forensic accountant recommended by Jessica, I began piecing together a comprehensive financial trail, documenting every transaction, every red flag, and every instance of fraud. It was painstaking work, but with each new revelation, my resolve only grew stronger. Midway through the process, I received a chilling reminder of just how high the stakes had become. A private investigator I had hired to dig into Elliot's background uncovered a disturbing piece of information. Elliot had already consulted with a high-powered divorce attorney and was actively preparing to file for dissolution of our marriage. The news hit me like a punch to the gut. Not only had Elliot betrayed me financially and emotionally, but he had also been planning to leave me high and dry, stripped of everything I had worked so hard for. In that moment, I knew there could be no turning back, no compromise or reconciliation. Elliot had declared war, and I had no choice but to meet him on the battlefield, armed with the truth and an unwavering determination to see justice served. From that point on, every waking moment was consumed by the pursuit of evidence and the preparation for the legal battle ahead. I would not be caught off guard, and I would not allow Elliot to steal one more ounce of my dignity or my hard-earned success. This was personal, and I was playing for keeps. As the days ticked by, my investigation into Elliot's misdeeds only deepened. With each new layer I peeled back, the scope of his betrayal became more staggering and more personal. Through my network of contacts in the real estate world, I learned that Elliot had been quietly shopping around our most valuable properties, looking to cash out behind my back. It was a calculated move designed to leave me penniless and powerless in the event of a divorce. The revelation ignited a fresh wave of fury within me. Not only had Elliot stolen from me financially, but he was now actively trying to strip me of the very empire I had built from the ground up. It was a devastating blow, one that threatened to destroy everything I had worked so hard for. I knew then that I couldn't afford to play by the rules anymore. If Elliot was going to fight dirty, then so be it. I would match his ruthlessness with my own brand of cunning and determination. First, I consulted with a team of lawyers, outlining every shred of evidence I had uncovered and laying out my strategy for protecting my assets. They were impressed by the meticulousness of my case, and together we crafted an airtight legal defense designed to neutralize Elliot's every move. Next, I reached out to my most trusted colleagues and business partners, carefully revealing the truth about Elliot's betrayal and rallying their support. Many were shocked and appalled, but they rallied around me, offering their resources and backing to help weather the coming storm. With my allies in place, I took the offensive, striking first before Elliot could make his next move. I filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and financial fraud, and immediately sought temporary restraining orders to freeze our joint accounts and prevent him from liquidating or transferring any assets. Elliot, caught off guard by my swift action, responded with fury. He bombarded me with angry calls and texts, spewing vile insults and threats, but I remained unfazed. His intimidation tactics held no sway over me anymore. I was beyond fear, driven by a singular purpose, to protect what was rightfully mine and see justice served. The ensuing legal battle was brutal, with both sides unleashing a barrage of accusations and counterclaims. Elliot's high-priced lawyers fought tooth and nail, trying to poke holes in my evidence and cast me as a vindictive, greedy ex-wife. But I stood firm, my unwavering resolve bolstered by the mountain of documentation I had amassed. With each court appearance, each deposition, I presented a meticulous, irrefutable case, laying bare the breadth of Elliot's deceit and financial malfeasance. And through it all, I refused to back down, refused to let Elliot or his legal team intimidate or gaslight me. This was my fight, my moment to reclaim the power and dignity he had tried to steal from me. No more playing the victim, no more being the dutiful wife. This was war, and I was determined to emerge victorious, no matter the cost. The air was thick with tension as our family and friends gathered for the annual 4th of July barbecue. It was a tradition we had upheld for years, a time to celebrate and strengthen the bonds that held us together. But this year the facade of unity was shattered. Elliot and I regarded each other with barely concealed contempt, our once solid marriage now a hollow shell of bitter resentment and mistrust. As the guests mingled and made small talk, I caught whispers and furtive glances in my direction. Word of our impending divorce had spread like wildfire, fueling speculation and gossip. Elliot, ever the charmer, played the role of the wounded party, regaling anyone who would listen with tales of my supposed greed and unreasonable demands. I seethed in silence, biding my time. I knew Elliot was banking on his ability to manipulate the narrative, to spin his web of lies and cast himself as the victim. But not this time. This time I held all the cards. As the meal wound down and the crowd settled into a contented lull, I cleared my throat and raised my glass. "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" Conversations trailed off, and all eyes turned toward me. Curiosity and anticipation etched on every face. "First, I want to thank you all for being here," I began, my voice steady and resolute. "This gathering has always been about family, about cherishing the bonds that hold us together through thick and thin." Elliot shifted in his seat, his expression guarded, sensing the shift in the mood. "Unfortunately," I continued, "not all bonds are meant to last. Some are built on lies and deception, twisted beyond recognition by greed and selfishness." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, and I caught Elliot's eyes narrowing in warning. For years, I have been the victim of a calculated betrayal. I pressed on, my voice rising. A betrayal perpetrated by the very man who vowed to love and cherish me, my husband, Elliot. Gasps and shocked whispers filled the air as I laid out the evidence, pulling no punches. Bank statements, financial records, damning proof of Elliot's fraudulent activities. I presented it all, exposing the depth of his duplicity for all to see. Elliot's face flushed with rage, but he remained silent, trapped in the glaring spotlight of truth. "This man," I declared, gesturing toward Elliot, "has stolen from me, lied to me, and plotted to leave me destitute. He has violated the sanctity of our marriage and disgraced the values we all hold dear." The crowd was stunned into silence, their expressions ranging from disbelief to outright disgust. Elliot finally broke, leaping to his feet. "You lying bitch," he snarled, his mask of civility crumbling. "You think you can turn everyone against me with your twisted version of the truth?" I met his gaze unflinchingly. "The truth needs no twisting, Elliot. The evidence speaks for itself." He opened his mouth to retort, but the words died on his lips as he took in the faces of our friends and family, the disappointment, the condemnation etched into their features. In that moment, I saw the realization dawn on him. His carefully constructed facade had crumbled, his lies and manipulations laid bare for all to witness. He was exposed, defeated, his power and influence reduced to ashes. A grim satisfaction washed over me as Elliot stormed off, his exit punctuated by the deafening silence of those he had once charmed and deceived. The battle was won, and though the war was far from over, I knew in that moment that justice would ultimately prevail. Elliot's reign of deceit had come to an end, and I had emerged from the ashes, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. This was just the beginning. In the aftermath of my explosive reveal, the gloves truly came off. Elliot, humiliated and enraged, lashed out with a vengeance, unleashing a torrent of legal maneuvers and smear tactics designed to leave me broken and destitute. First came the lawsuit, a sprawling mass of accusations and fabrications aimed at painting me as the villain, a greedy, conniving wife hell-bent on destroying her innocent husband. Elliot's legal team bombarded me with subpoenas and depositions, dragging me through the mud in a desperate bid to discredit my case. But I stood firm, my resolve unwavering. With the support of my own formidable lawyers, I countered Elliot's claims with cold, hard facts, irrefutable evidence of his financial crimes and breaches of trust. Every lie, every distortion, was met with a measured, meticulous rebuttal, leaving no room for doubt or manipulation. As the legal battles raged on, Elliot resorted to more underhanded tactics, launching a vicious smear campaign to tarnish my reputation and turn public opinion against me. He planted false stories in the media, accusing me of everything from embezzlement to infidelity, desperate to regain the moral high ground he had so thoroughly lost. Through it all, I remained focused and steadfast, refusing to be drawn into the mudslinging and character assassination. My allies, the friends and colleagues who had witnessed Elliot's true colors firsthand, rallied around me, providing a bulwark of support against the onslaught of lies and vitriol. And still the fight raged on, each day bringing new challenges and fresh attempts at intimidation. Elliot's lawyers threatened, cajoled, and postured, but I met their every move with a steely resolve, never once wavering in my pursuit of justice. The emotional toll was immense, the stress and strain nearly unbearable at times. There were moments when I wanted nothing more than to give in, to surrender, and walk away from the chaos that had consumed my life. But then I would remember the depths of Elliot's betrayal, the years of lies and manipulation, and a new wave of determination would wash over me. This wasn't just about money or assets anymore. This was about reclaiming my dignity, my self-worth, and the life that Elliot had tried so viciously to destroy. So I pressed on, fueled by a burning desire to see this through to the bitter end, no matter the cost. And as the legal battles escalated, a glimmer of hope began to emerge. Key witnesses came forward, corroborating my evidence and painting a damning portrait of Elliot's misdeeds. Financial records that he had tried to bury resurfaced, shedding further light on the web of deceit he had woven. With each new revelation, Elliot's case grew weaker, his desperate tactics more transparent. And slowly, inexorably, the tide began to turn in my favor. Through it all, I remained resolute, my eyes fixed on the ultimate prize. Not just a legal victory, but a reckoning. A moment of catharsis where Elliot would finally be forced to answer for the pain and suffering he had inflicted. It was a long, arduous road, but I knew in my heart that justice would prevail. And when that day finally came, I would savor every moment, basking in the knowledge that I had emerged from the ashes stronger, wiser, and utterly unbroken. The courtroom was deathly silent as the judge cleared his throat, his gaze sweeping over the assembled parties. After months of bitter legal battles, countless motions and counterclaims, this was the moment of reckoning we had all been waiting for. In the matter of Tessa Somerville versus Elliot Carver, the judge began, his voice ringing out in the hushed chamber, I have carefully considered the evidence and testimonies presented by both sides. My heart hammered in my chest as I exchanged a tense with my lawyer. This was it, the moment that would determine the course of my future, the culmination of everything I had fought for. The judge continued, his words measured and deliberate. The documentation and financial records provided by Mrs. Somerville paint a clear picture of fraud, deception, and gross mishandling of marital assets by Mr. Carver. A ripple of murmurs swept through the gallery, but I remained focused, my eyes fixed on the judge's weathered face. Furthermore, he went on, the testimony of key witnesses and subject matter experts has corroborated Mrs. Somerville's claims, leaving little doubt as to the veracity of her accusations. Elliot shifted in his seat, his jaw clenched and his knuckles whitening as he gripped the edge of the table. In light of the overwhelming evidence, the judge declared, I hereby grant Mrs. Somerville's petition for divorce on grounds of financial fraud and breach of marital trust. A collective gasp echoed through the room, but I barely registered it, too consumed by the wave of relief and validation that washed over me. The judge wasn't finished. Additionally, I am awarding Mrs. Somerville full ownership and control of all marital assets, including properties, investments, and bank accounts. Mr. Carver's claims and countersuits are dismissed in their entirety. My eyes widened in disbelief, the gravity of the ruling sinking in. Not only had I secured my freedom from Elliot's web of deceit, but I had emerged victorious, my financial future and hard-earned success intact. Elliot, on the other hand, was visibly shaken, his face contorted in a mask of rage and disbelief. This is an outrage, he sputtered, rising to his feet. You can't do this. But the judge silenced him with a stern glare. I can, and I have, Mr. Carver. Your actions have been found to be reprehensible and in direct violation of the law. Consider yourself fortunate that criminal charges are not being pursued at this time. As Elliot slumped back into his seat, deflated and defeated, a profound sense of vindication washed over me. After months of turmoil and emotional anguish, justice had finally been served. In the aftermath of the ruling, I found myself overwhelmed by a swirl of emotions, relief, elation, and a newfound sense of empowerment. I had stared down the man who had tried to break me, and I had emerged victorious, my spirit and self-worth intact. As I stepped out into the bright sunlight, surrounded by the well wishes of my friends and supporters, I allowed myself a moment of quiet reflection. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was crystal clear. I was a survivor, a warrior who had faced down adversity and emerged stronger for it. Elliot's betrayal had nearly destroyed me, but in the end it had forged me into a woman of steel, a force to be reckoned with. The scars would linger, but they would serve as a reminder of my resilience, my unwavering determination to fight for what was right. With a deep breath, I squared my shoulders and set my sights on the future, a future of my own making, one where I would write my own destiny, free from the shackles of lies and manipulation. The battle was over, but the war had only just begun, a war for personal growth, for healing, and for the pursuit of a life lived on my own terms. And this time, I was prepared to fight with everything I had,